Yamuna Tira Vanatwamali Yamuna Tira Vanatwamali Jayanta Thomadava Kunja Pihari Jayanta Thomadava Kunja Pihari Jayanti Naballava Girivaradhari Jayanti Naballava Girivaradhari Yashdanandana Prajantarandana Yashdanandana Prajantarandana Yamunatira Yamunatira Kunja Vihari Ramadava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Jai Radha Shama Sundara Shama Sundara Radhe. Jai Radha Shama Radhe Krishna Radhe Shama Jai Radhe Krishna Jai Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jai Krishna Balaram Jaya Gauranditaya 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 Jaya Gauranditaya Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Om Supad Mahamsa Parivishaya Sutta Sutta Shishamachila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jayam Shapad Paramahamsa Parivajaya Shata Shata Shishamachila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Kodi Vaishnavarinda ki Shri Rup Shri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Sadhu Goswami Prabhu ki प्रेम से को श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद से अद्वैत गदाधर शिवजरी गौरव भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गो गोपा गोपी गोपीनाथ मुकुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की वृंदावन धाम की मथुरा धाम की मायापुर धाम की जगन्नाथ धाम की वृंद देवी तुलसी देवी की भक्ति देवी की गंगा यमुना देवी की हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की श्री श्री गौणिताय की श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की श्री श्री राधा श्याम सुंदर की गो प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल समवेत भक्त वृंद की all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shigura and Shiguranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. So reading from the Bhagavad-Gita as it is, second chapter, text number 30. Deho nityam avadyoyam de sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam sochitum arhasi dehi nityam avadyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam sochitum arhasi deho nityam avadyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam sochitum arhasi dehe nityam avadyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam sochitum arhasi deho nityam avadyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam sochitum arhasi dehi nityam avadyoyam Devi Sarvasya Bharata Tasmat Sarvani Bhutani Natvam Sochitamarhasi Dehi Nityam Avadyoyam Dehe Sarvasya Bharata Tasmat Sarvani Bhutani Natvam Sochitamarhasi Dehi, the owner of the material body. Nityam, eternally. Avadya, cannot be killed. I am the soul. Dehe, in the body. Sarvasya, of everyone. Bharat, or descendant of Bharat. Tasmat, therefore. Sarvani, all. Bhutani, living entities that are born. Na, never. Tvam, you. Sochitum, to lament. Arhasi, deserve. Translation and purport by Vangari Silesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O descendant of Bharat, he who dwells in the body can never be slain, therefore you need not grieve for any living being. Purport. The Lord now concludes the chapter of instruction on the immutable spiritual soul. In describing the immortal soul in various ways, Lord Krishna establishes that the soul is immortal and the body is temporary. Therefore, Arjuna as a Kshatriya should not abandon his duty out of fear that his grandfather and teacher, Bhishma and Drona, will die in the battle. On the authority of Sri Krishna, one has to believe that there is a soul different from the material body, not that there is no such thing as soul, or that living symptoms developed at a certain stage of material maturity resulting from their interaction of chemicals. Though the soul is immortal, violence is not encouraged. But at the time of war, it is not discouraged when there is actual need for it. That need must be justified in terms of the sanction of the Lord and not capriciously. Vandeham Sri Guru Sivatapada Kamalan Sri Guran Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagar Jatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sijivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Chaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sagana Lalita Sri Vishagan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpade Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatrubhashta Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare Hare. So, for many verses, Krishna is speaking to Arjuna in regards to the soul, the nature of the soul, that the soul is eternal and the soul can never be slain. And here he is telling Arjuna that Sochitum, he should not lament, because the soul is eternal and there's only the body which is being destroyed. Arjuna was very concerned that how he can fight against his grandfather Bhishmadev, and how he can fight against his teacher Dronacharya. So, of course, Prabhupada here is mentioning very nicely in his purport that one should not be violent. At the same time, when there is a need, then one should be violent actually. So usually we try to avoid killing even an ant or a mosquito. But if there's a need, if an aggressor is coming, just like a thief is there, and sometimes the thieves, they're not only going to steal, but they will kill. And the person's in the house. At that time, according to the scriptures, one can defend oneself. Even one may kill the aggressor. And then there will be no punishment for that, because it is for self-defense. So also here, as is the case, that Krishna wanted Arjuna to fight against the Kauravas because they were not acting according to dharma, religion. And most of the persons on Duryodhana's side, they were not properly situated. They were also not following dharma. They were sinful. So, but of course here Bhishmadev and Drona and Kripacharya and some others were there who were actually great personalities. And they were not sinful. But due to circumstances, they were taking, or they were obliged to be with Duryodhana. So sometimes the situation in this world is a little difficult. And sometimes we may not know what to do and what not to do. But if we take shelter of Krishna and we engage in devotional activities, especially under the guidance of the representative of the Lord, the spiritual master, then we will be protected. Then we will be properly situated. And then we should not lament. There's no need to lament. And also, as in the end of Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna is saying, Ma suchaha, don't fear. So, basically we have to come to the spiritual platform, the platform of the self, and engage in spiritual activities, in devotional service, for the pleasure of Krishna. Here, in these verses, so first of all, Krishna is trying to impress upon Arjuna that we are not this body, we are spirit soul. And therefore, in many verses, he's explaining about the nature of the soul. So that is an important point, that first we have to try to be situated on the spiritual platform. That is also known as Sambandha Gyan. We should know Sambandha, what is our relationship with this world, with the spiritual world, and ultimately with God. This material world is temporary, and actually the jiva is not meant to be here. But the jiva is meant to be serving the Lord in the spiritual realm. This material world is like a prison. And just like in this world, so somebody is doing something wrong, murdering something or some fraud, by misappropriation of so much money, then he may be put in prison. But is not supposed to be there all the time. Of course, if one is murdering another person in a heinous way, then he may have to stay for the whole life in the prison. So, but it is not the natural situation to be in prison. The natural situation is to be living in its world under the laws of the government, and then ultimately to be good citizen, and ultimately to be trying to make advancement in spiritual life by engaging ultimately in devotional service. So, but it is mentioned that we should chant with Sambandha Gyan, or we should serve with Sambandha Gyan. We should be aware that we are spirit soul, and then we can chant properly, then we can serve properly. So the spiritual life, it is a gradual process. Just like in this world also, for a child, so he's first learning from the parents what to do, what not to do, how to eat, and what to eat, and what to do going to school. And first playing, but at the same time learning a little bit something. And then going to the proper school, first standard, second standard, learning to count, learning the ABC and so on. And then he can gradually go to the upper classes. First the primary school, then the secondary school, college, high school, university, and so on. Similarly, in spiritual life, so there's a gradual development. First, we must have faith, shraddha, in the process of devotional service. And then sadhusanga, then we have to take shelter of the saintly persons who are engaged in devotional service. And then we can properly execute devotional service, and then we become purified in existence. And then we become fixed. And then we will take great pleasure in engaging in spiritual activities, and then we become attached to the Lord and detached from this material existence. And in this way we can attain perfection. So Krishna is giving this knowledge here in a similar way. First, that we should understand we are not this body, we are spirit soul. And then we should act according to our nature, our swabhav, psychophysical nature. And so that means according to Vana Ashram. But with Krishna in the center. And ultimately to act for his pleasure. And of course, it is not possible to immediately to take full shelter of Krishna, to fully surrender to Krishna. It is a gradual process. Therefore, Krishna is then advising Arjuna, or is explaining about karma yoga. So one is connected to the Lord, yoga, understanding that we are spirit soul and Krishna is the supreme spirit soul. So then engaging in some activity in this world, and then some portion of one's earnings one may engage in the service of the Lord. So in this way one can advance gradually. And then explaining about Jnana Yoga, so that we have to acquire knowledge also from the spiritual master. And the spiritual master is a representative of Krishna. As Krishna spoke to Arjuna, so the same knowledge the spiritual master is speaking to the disciple, to the aspiring devotee. And then one has to practice some renunciation also. Just like Chaturmas. So that is meant that we may, during this 4 months, give up certain things as an austerity and try to increase our spiritual activities so that we may advance a little bit. So we may give up the enjoying tendency. And actually, so with the understanding that we should try to do what Krishna wants, according to Krishna's desire, and do everything is in a favorable way. So in this way, by pleasing Krishna, we become more and more purified in existence. And we advance more and more in devotional service, in realization of the absolute truth of Krishna. So of course here Prabhupada also in the purport, so he's addressing the common man, especially of these days, who have some misconceptions, thinking that the body is just a result of course, man and woman coming together, and then as a result, then by sexual intercourse, then another body, another human being is going to manifest. So they don't have a clear understanding, the common man. But according to the scriptures, it is very clear. So we have to accept the words of the scriptures, the authorized scriptures, and most authoritative and most complete and clear are the Vedic literatures. And so the Bhagavad-Gita is one of the most authoritative scriptures recognized by all in Bharatvarsha in India, spoken by the Supreme Lord himself, and giving perfect knowledge. And actually throughout the Vedic literatures we can see that so much information is given in regards to how things are coming into being, even how the material world manifested, how it is maintained, and how it is annihilated. And if, for example, in one universe the different planetary systems are there, and how far is the sun and the moon from this earth. So very detailed descriptions are there. And, for example, even how to live in this world peacefully by following the scriptures. How to build a house, for example, Vastu Shastra is there. Or how to keep the body healthy, Ayurveda is there. And so that is also helpful, so that we may be healthy and we may be peaceful. Because the common man may not have knowledge or they may not have faith. And somehow they're living in this world that is there, but they may not be so peaceful. And especially then they are not able to understand the existence of the soul and make advancement on the spiritual path. And the goal of life is to realize ourselves and to realize our relationship with Krishna, the Supreme Lord. So in this material world, so many people, they have their ideas. What is the goal of life? Or, of course, many, they think there's no any specific purpose. Just somehow we came into being, and at one point, death will be there and everything is finished. So the majority of the people are in ignorance and they don't have a clear understanding of the actual purpose of this material existence. But of course, because it is the nature of the soul to be eternal and to be active, so everyone is active and everyone tries to live as long as possible in this world. And they're not so much concerned about a spiritual life or existence of the soul. They're just living. But according to the scriptures, so these persons, they are addressed as polished animals, or just being like animals. The animals are eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And they don't know what's going on. They're just living. And they don't have this intelligence to understand why we are in this world, what is the purpose of life. They're just living. So they're eating and sleeping and defending themselves. That's all they know. So similarly, some persons are there. They have basically this similar mentality, but just in a polished way. Therefore, Prabhupada used to say polished animals. And they don't know the purpose of life. Of course, sometimes they or they have the understanding that we're now in this material world and we should just live happy. And yes, let me get married and have some children. Or even nowadays, maybe no need to get married, we just live together. And maybe we have some child or maybe not, and sometimes separating. And trying to get a good job and some money so they can enjoy. But it is not the purpose of life. The purpose of life is, of the human form of life, is to understand that we are spirit soul and that we have a relationship with the Supreme Lord. And then we have to be constantly engaged in serving the Lord. And we should realize our spiritual nature. But so in the beginning, so basic knowledge has to be there, or the understanding that we are spirit soul. And that from that platform, then we can advance slowly but surely. Just like here, Krishna wants Arjuna to fight because there was a need to fight. Although usually we avoid violence, we avoid to give harm to anyone by speaking or by acting. So everyone should live peacefully together, and there should be some nice relationship with all those we have some contact. That is natural. That is proper behavior. But at the same time, if things are not going on properly, so then violence has to be also used. So therefore the police department is there. If somebody is not following the law, then they have to be punished. Of course, depending of what they have done. And then the army is there to defend the nation. In emergency situations also, the army is there and helping. So that is required to protect the nation, the citizens. And so then many times then violence has to be there to be protected. So Krishna is very merciful, and Krishna is giving this knowledge to the conditioned soul, and Krishna is not forcing anyone to surrender unto him. So but Krishna is very gently, even to Arjuna here, explaining everything, and then is telling him at the end that you may do as you wish, but he's hoping that Krishna is hoping that Arjuna will fight for dharma. And then finally Arjuna, he realizes that yes, I should fight. And then he was fighting very violently, even against his teacher, which normally it is never done. But due to the circumstances, his grandfather Bhishma and Dronacharya, they were not on the righteous position. So therefore there was no fault on Arjuna in fighting even against the teacher and his grandfather. And so that is based on the authority of Krishna. Krishna told him to fight against Bhishma and Dronacharya also. So therefore also Prabhupada is mentioning, so that usually violence is not encouraged, but at time of war it is not discouraged. And there's a need for it. But then he's mentioning also that need must be justified in terms of the sanction of the Lord. Or we may say also the representative of the Lord, the spiritual master, or the king, the righteous king, who is knowledgeable, who is a devotee of the Lord. Then we may order the citizens, to defend the nation, to fight against invaders, or even sometimes attack others. It should not be capriciously. It should not be whimsical. So important decisions should be taken by consulting with the authorities, the spiritual master, the elders who are experienced, and of course they should be God conscious. And then ultimately, of course, the Lord. And therefore we may pray to the Lord also to direct us to do the proper thing in a particular situation. So therefore it is recommended that we perform devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master, under the guidance of the experienced devotee, the advanced devotee. So we engage in spiritual activities and we try to advance, but even then to live peaceful in this world. So we have to interact with so many persons who may also not be so much engaged in spiritual activities. So then we have to take advice from the elders if some difficult situation is there. For small things, we don't have to ask the spiritual master or the seniors, so that we can decide. So some common sense has to be there. Some intelligence has to be there. Like sometimes we have seen also devotees asking their spiritual master, so I have to fly to this or this place. So we have heard that also and seen. So shall I take Air India or shall I take whatever other airline? So this kind of questions you don't have to ask the spiritual master. That you can decide yourself. Use your intelligence to see which airline is reputable. Or maybe you can ask somebody who is flying frequently. But another important decisions that we should ask the seniors. Like a young man is there and he wants to get married. So it should not be by simply being attracted to a young girl and then falling in love. Of course, sometimes he may be there. And it may be the will of the Lord also, but mostly not. But therefore in the scriptures it is mentioned that we should take the help of the parents in deciding if the girl will be suitable for me. And then we may see astrology also. The brahmanas, even the spiritual master, he may give guidance in this. And one should take the blessings of the parents, the spiritual master, in order to get married. And the ceremony is there, then Vivah Samskar, the marriage ceremony. And then the elders are invited. And then of course the priest will be there and he will do puja to the spiritual master, to his spiritual master, to the Lord. So that the blessings may be there of the Lord upon the couple. So they may then live together as husband and wife with Krishna in the center. And then they may perform their duty according to Vana Ashram with Krishna in the center, and then they can advance in their spiritual life. So we need to take the guidance from the seniors. We need the blessings of the seniors and the Lord. And then we can progress in spiritual life. And then we can be happy in this world. Otherwise, always some difficulty will be there. And we may not be able to advance very nicely in our spiritual life. Or the progress will be very slow. So basically the process is easy. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. And take Krishna Prasadam. But at the same time, due to the complex situations in this material world and due to one's conditioned nature, and especially the mind, which is not always ready to surrender to Krishna, then sometimes it gets difficult. So therefore then, we need to take shelter of the devotees, the elders, and pray for the mercy of the Lord. And then we may be able to live peacefully and advance in spiritual life. And then everything is more clear. And then we may be able to help others also in this regard. So any questions? So, the last of the verses, as Prabhupada is saying, in regards to the nature of the soul. And simple purport by Srila Prabhupada. So if there are no questions, we stop here. Hare Krishna. So we have so chant Hare Krishna and be happy and take some Krishna Prasad.
Hare Krishna, Hare